You're listening to Dude Check This Out, episode 25. Hey, hello! Hi everyone out there. It's time for Dude Check This Out. It's happening this week. We got me, that's Noah Stewart, here hosting the show this week, at least for a little bit. We got Kevin Lane over there.
Hey, I'm laying down right now.
Laying down on the bed over there.
Underneath the stars. We're outside.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear any wind?
But also on a bed.
Yeah,
outside.
I brought my bed outside.
Very luxurious.
I don't sleep on the ground, Noah.
Yeah.
I was in Boy Scouts. I've done that. I don't have to do that anymore. Now I can bring my bed with me. We have all of the Geralds here to take us around. So I just told them to bring my bed. Said, hey Gerald, you and those other three Geralds just grab my bed, bring it outside. We're recording outside today. It's a beautiful day. It's really nice. We're out in the wilderness.
Beautiful
I can see the stars.
Day with the stars.
That's right. We're
stars
just doing
during
that.
the day.
That's right. So I'm laying on my bed outside. It's very nice.
Very luxurious.
That's right.
Thankfully, also out here today under the stars today.
There's so many.
We have the longtime cameoer, first time official guest, Daniel Mooney over here.
Hello. I'm Daniel Mooney. I'm a dank flamingo. That's my Wu-Tang Clan name, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, dank flamingo.
Did you look that up?
That's pretty good.
I
did look mine up too, and I forgot what it was. Dang it. All right, we're going to have to go get Gerald during a break that we have. We're going to put in a break today so I can look up my name, because I remember it was pretty good. It was like, oh my gosh, why can't I remember? I specifically looked it up for this moment, and I don't remember. All right. You know what? You guys keep talking. I'm going to go to the internet on my phone.
All right.
It's going to be hard to get Wi-Fi out here in the wilderness, but I'm going to do my best.
Excellent. All right. Well,
I'm so happy to have you here today. As a dank flamingo, I've given you...
I thought you were like a trucker hat last time we talked to you.
Yeah, well, I was, but people evolve. Things change.
Life 2018 after all.
It's 2018. Please. Life is a great adventure, and mine is currently as a dank flamingo. Well, I gave you the joyous experience of Frostpunk.
Did that's what it was. Oh, hold on, I think I got it. That's right. I am Violent Mastermind.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Well, if you're gonna be a mastermind,
might as well be
might
violent.
as well just go all the way and be a violent.
I mean, I don't know if Violent Mastermind or Master Chill is better, because Master Chill is pretty good too.
Master Chill is also very good. I'm still a fan of the Vulgar Magician.
That's pretty great. And yours was the Dank Flamingo?
Dank Flamingo is pretty great.
That is pretty good.
I'm a big fan.
So he's just a magician, but instead of magic words, it's just curse words all the time. It is, or
yeah, that's how he conjures spells. That's how I conjure spells. Me, the Vulgar Magician.
Yeah, and
so they say there's power in words.
Yeah. So, what part of you as a flamingo makes you dank?
In quotes.
It's actually the diet, surprisingly.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of eating shrimp, you eat
memes. Mostly.
No, I get that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's not healthy diet, but
it's a dank one.
It's keeps me going.
It's the word equivalent of just shoveling Twinkies in your mouth.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Do you get them deep fried?
Of course.
These Twinkie memes?
Oh, well, from time to time when I'm in the mood.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Because there are some deep fried memes that I've seen. Of course.
Sure.
I'm not a big fan, but they're there.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is.
Especially the people who make them.
Oh, most of all.
Yeah, for sure. Daniel, I'm gonna ask you to put that mic just inside your mouth for me, just real close.
Get it in there. Real close to your face.
Is this close enough?
Oh, that's
it's
perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you don't feel like any of the fuzz is tickling your nose, then it might not be close enough. Because I feel that way literally all the time.
Yeah.
Like right now, I feel like there's something touching my nose. I know there's not, but I feel like there is.
I think it's important to note that being on your show is a wholly uncomfortable experience. The very
From top to
essence.
bottom.
Yes.
I'm sure listening to it as well can be uncomfortable at times.
Well, as a longtime
too.
listener, I can tell you that is absolutely the case.
Hey, my sister called me last night. It was like, hey, I listened to y'all's Fast 5 episode. And I was like, awesome.
Weird.
I'm glad you liked it. She's like, yeah, we're going to listen to a bunch more. I was like, cool. And
Okay.
then her husband, my brother-in-law Blake, was like, she complained the whole time. And I was like,
About
what?
our opinions of it?
No, that I didn't know at all the facts about it. So
Well,
like,
if you're not knowledgeable about Fast 5 lore, then really what's the point of you?
And you're
Right.
just a garbage man.
so
Garbage men are great, all right? They provide a useful service.
I mean, I'm a man made of garbage.
Oh, yeah, sure.
a garbage man.
Yeah, no, I respect the sanitation workers. I'm just a man made of garbage.
Right, totally.
They can pick me up and throw me in the trash.
So all of the characters were in previous movies. That was one of the questions that we
Oh,
had.
okay. Yes.
And I don't think that lady at the very end, who was like a big deal that they thought she was dead, her and Dom, I don't think are married after all. My sister got mad at me
Oh.
for that. So Kristen,
All right.
I know you're not going to listen to this episode because you don't care about Frostpunk, but I hear you. We hear you.
And I feign ignorance because that was the only Furious movie I had seen up to that point.
I don't think you need to feign ignorance, no. I think you have it.
Yeah, and
it's
I
real.
I really
It's true.
just don't care. So sorry, Kristen.
Anyways, this week, Daniel gave us a thing, and for us to properly discuss it, I have to give my hosting powers to Mr. Mooney
Yep.
over here.
To the boon himself.
I'm going to have to channel them into you
Is it going to hurt?
with the ancient language.
Is it vulgar?
It's so
very
vulgar.
Okay, here I go.
I feel it. I can feel it coming.
There we go. You feel it?
I feel it.
All
I
right.
have it. I have the power.
So you
I have the touch as well.
you got the touch?
It's all here. Both the touch and the power.
All right. So what do you got for us?
Well, I want to start us out as we always do, and it's very appropriate in this case. Could I please, from both of you, have a hot take on Frostpunk?
Do you
do
want
it.
to give a quick introduction of what the game is for those who didn't play it or didn't listen to last episode? Or do you just want us to give a hot take and then they'll figure it out by context clues?
You wouldn't have someone listen to your show without playing the game first, right? Like that's not something that happens.
Yeah, they're not allowed to. It's in a
No.
legally binding contract
right,
when
so-
they download the episode.
So a quick overview of Frostpunk. Frostpunk is what we could, for now, call a survival city builder. It's a game that came out early 2018, set in the post-past apocalypse, a sort of steampunk reality where the world is getting continuously colder, and humanity's last hope of survival is to cluster around these massive steam generators, and all the hopes of these people lie in you, their fearless captain, who has to make tough choices and do general city building things to keep them alive through the cold. It's a game of complexity and depth and also a couple minor mechanical issues. But that's Frostpunk.
It's pretty
Frostpunk.
sweet.
Punks of the Frost.
Yeah, it makes you sad and happy,
Yeah.
but also
And
just kind of
triumphant.
sad. Yeah.
I think there's joy in struggle, right? At
Yeah.
least
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Frostpunk makes you work for it,
Climbing the hill,
Yeah,
as it were.
so to speak.
it feels good.
So hot take.
Right.
Hot takes.
So Noah and I played this game together.
Yeah, because Kevin has a more beefy PC than I do, or just a current PC, whereas mine is old and cannot run Frostpunk.
Right. So we played a run together, and then I accidentally saved over it when we tried to get to play it again, which whoops. But I played 2 other runs on my own, more or less all the way through. One, I actually completed the run all the way. And so I really, really enjoyed the game. I had a great time going through it. I enjoy kind of the games that are about efficiency, right? Where kind of city builder stuff like that, you want to get the most bang for your buck, efficient resources. And it's kind of you versus the game and the environment instead of like, big monsters or multiplayer games or the bad guys or whatever. It's more of just like us versus the world. So I had a really good time with it. The aesthetic was super cool.
Yeah.
I liked all the Frostpunkian stuff. There were those big automatons or like big like walking machine things that were pretty rad. And I liked how it wasn't like futuristic, right? Where it's like far-flung future with lasers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I felt like it was very, I guess, steampunky in the it was like 1900s, like turn of the century era kind of stuff, because they have electricity, but everything's just kind of like ramshackle cars, like Ford era cars and steam powered stuff.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the whole aesthetic of it all.
Coal powered too.
And by the end, I really like the whole kind of struggle of doing the right thing, or like the nice thing / like what you have to do to survive. It made me like feel some stuff of like being sad or like being upset with people when they would do things, or they would be like, hey, like we don't want to eat soup anymore, and I'd be like, well, that sucks because you're gonna eat soup and that's how you're gonna be all right with it. So I had a great time like playing the game. I like those kind of like efficiency, kind of like Civ, but Civ is way too complicated for me and is a little too slow. This was a little bit faster and I could kind of wrap my brain around everything. So I really, really enjoyed it, and we'll kind of get into some of the more emotional stuff later, I expect, if the host allows us to.
No, I'm going to end it right now.
Oh, okay.
Darn good.
It's over.
Yeah, so there is a considerable amount to unpack with Frostpunk. Sorry, Noah. Do you have more hot takes?
Oh, just yeah,
hotter.
I also liked it too. I didn't get to play a full run through of it, but I've spent plenty of time thinking about it and other games kind of within its genre. But I did enjoy what I played of it and the kind of decisions it imposes upon you that make you make some tough decisions. But yeah, let's.
So to me, Frostpunk is from a very story oriented view. It's a story of very much just ordinary people kind of thrust into extraordinary circumstances, as many games actually are. And you are not so much better than these people. You don't have some kind of omniscient knowledge or tremendous ability. You're just their captain by luck or happenstance, and it's your job to lead them and make whatever difficult choices you have to make that happen. The responsibility is on you. The people have relatively simple needs. Like Kevin was saying, it's not something that requires tremendous precision to keep these folks happy. You got to feed them. They need to sleep, and well, they need to sleep sometimes, and they need to be warm. That's it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And your city needs to cater to these needs, because ultimately the people are the city, right? You arrive with just 80 folks and virtually nothing, and you pick up what's around you and set off. So from a story point of view, you don't start with much. You develop everything.
You don't start with anything.
You start with 80 people.
There's a big generator and it's off, and then there's some stuff laying on the ground around you.
You start with 0 resources. Now there aren't many resources, just a few. So before we go into spoilers territory, right? I want to talk about a little bit of what the game is. So the game, right? It is a city builder, plain and simple, but it's a little bit more than that. It's a survival city builder, and there's a few of these. It's something we'll get into later, but it's like Kevin was saying, it's something where you fight the elements, right? Mm-hmm. It is, you are opposed to just the weather. That's what you're struggling against. There's no great enemy. Maybe some enemies within you, but that's less of an issue than anything else.
Freaking Londoners.
Yeah,
they're the worst.
So tell me, pretty soon, pretty shortly in the game, you start to send your scouting parties out.
Yep.
Right. You put up your basic city, plop down some tents. You're having a great time. You think you've got everything under control. You've got this mission to put up a beacon, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Find more people.
And you say, well, there's more stuff out there. There's another city. That's great.
Yeah, Winterhome.
Winterhome. If they can do it,
there's hope.
If they can do it, we can do it, right?
Yep.
So you send your folks out. Try and well, how did you learn about Winterhome?
Well, so they, you do the beacon, you send the scouts out, and they're like, oh, hey, there's like what looks like a big, coal generator out there, like the one we have.
Yeah.
But like their town is developed, and like we can see structures.
They've
in
like
the distance.
been successful, right?
Yeah. That I remember reading about it and them saying like, oh, we've heard of Winterhome, that other people either from London or wherever, they have already established a base out here. We just have to model ours after theirs. Once we find them, then they're going to send supplies. We'll be okay. That's the big deal. Because we, at the very beginning, something happens and you guys crash. Like your group gets separated from some of their families. You lose some of your supplies. And it's like, oh, this horrible thing happened and we just barely made it here. Now we have to somehow survive. That's like the storyline of you guys getting there.
So I think there are some beats in the story. So there's this first part where you're collecting those resources. It's not yet very cold. You can kind of do things without worrying about heat too much. And then this first weather wave hits, right? It drops two units, I think, to -40.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your people start getting sick. Things start getting harder. You can't really send them out and do things, collect the resources anymore. And you start to move with the tech tree at the same time, right? So all of a sudden, you're moving from this beginning kind of naive city building state to now I'm sending out people I'm trying to explore, trying to figure out what's around me. And in that second phase, you start to then build up some momentum. You start to find these resources. You're like, hey, this is feeling kind of good. I just got like 300 wood. That's exactly what I need right now.
Yeah, that does feel really good. When the scouts come back and all of a sudden they're like, hey, we got 100 steel. What do you want to build with that? I'm like, sweet, new automaton. Boop.
Right. So they're giving you a lot of power in this kind of early phase. Your scouts going out, you're finding things, you're thinking, wow, there's all this stuff out here. I think maybe I can handle this. And they get closer to Winterhome, and you don't really know what's going on. Eventually, you get to Winterhome, or Winterhome gets to you, depending on how fast you are. And
wait, Winterhome can get to you?
Yes. So if you decline the call to adventure and you don't send your scouts out fast enough, a person in rags will stumble into your city and tell you that Winterhome has fallen.
Oh, we didn't get that. I've never got that far with the 3 runs I did.
No.
And we didn't in our first run. We went to Winterhome because it was like that was the quest. The quest was like, hey, we need to go out there because Winterhome is like what we need to do. We need to find that because that's where salvation will be. That like the people there got it figured out. So we need to go get to them so we can also have it all figured out.
So you figure this out eventually, one way or another. That Winterhome is not working out. They failed, and all of a sudden
in ruins.
It's in ruins, right? So whatever happened, it is very perceivable, right? It's very, very believable that what happened to them could happen to you, because I think there's something along the lines of like the people were clearly starving and they rioted and they like killed their captain and then basically killed each other or something along those lines. Hard to tell. And that could have happened to you guys. It could still happen.
And it's at that point you take like a huge hit to discontent, right?
I think your hope goes all the way down.
Yeah. It goes to like just a sliver, just so small.
A sliver, that's right. And this is your first big challenge. Now, the first drop in temperature, that was bad for you. That wasn't good. But your first big like failure state comes with the Londoners. So how did you guys react to the Londoners?
They're bunch of whiny jerks.
I remember kind of freaking out and going like, what are these people? Wait, they want to leave? And then at first I was like, okay, that's not a big deal. It's going to be fine.
We have too many mouths to feed. Maybe if some of them leave, it'll be fine.
Maybe they shouldn't be part of our group anyway.
But then we at one point had like almost 50 or 60 Londoners at one time.
Yeah.
And
which is a lot of people considering that's like Like at that point, I think we had like close to 200 people in our
Right.
camp. So that's like a quarter of our civilization.
And if they all left, we would have died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Because it was like that's all of our coal coming, like people coming in, or like now all of a sudden we just don't have any food. People like it was gonna be pretty scary.
Yeah.
So at that point it was like because we also there's the hope and the discontent, right?
Right,
The kind of
2
that
bars.
mechanic. And our hope was higher than our discontent for a long time, and so we were just kind of frustrated, like guys, just what are you doing? Like stick with us. But I think that after I played it a few other times, there's a few other mechanics that are built in that actually reduce the Londoners that we weren't doing in our first
Oh, really?
playthrough.
Okay.
Yeah. So the emotional response, I was like, guys, like, what are you doing? Quit whining. Be like, we're doing everything we can. We're being the best people we can be. Like the best captains. You guys are happy. Discontent is low. Why are you still want to leave?
So if you approach the game from a purely mechanical state, you don't enjoy some of these emotional connections, right?
Right.
If you try and I don't know, it's not hard in this game's case because they give you a lot of methods to do it. But if you try and put yourself in the shoes of the captain and say, well, we are actually trying to survive this thing. Obviously, you want to win. Then these Londoners, they're not in your favor. They are bad people. You do not like these folks because they are. First of all, you imagine if they go out on their own, try and get back to London, which you just left, by the way. You think that they're certainly going to die. There's no way they're going to make it. There's no way they survive outside of this. This is our last hope. And second, as they leave the city, they're dooming the people they're leaving behind as well. So now they are making this foolish and somewhat selfish decision to leave out of fear, right? Or despair. And they're harming everyone else that they're leaving behind.
Yeah, and they throw graffiti on walls. They beat up a priest.
That was probably one of my favorite moments in our playthrough was because you get to the moment where you have to decide between like an ordered state and a religious state.
Mm-hmm.
And we went with religious state because we were trying to go for like a hope run.
Yeah, like a nice guy run.
Yeah, and the Londoners were like throwing up graffiti, trying to sway people to come with them, and then they give us an option like, hey, like you can send out a priest to like try and break up the Londoners, trying to like sway everyone.
Yeah, kind of in a peaceful way, right? To go over there and be like, hey guys, like it's not that bad.
Let's just talk about it.
So we sent the priest out, and then they beat the crap out of the priest. And which swayed some of the people let's go with these Londoners. They know what's up.
Yeah, and our discontent went up.
They were attacking your authority, right?
Yeah.
The priest was speaking for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the laws a little bit then. So up until the time of the Londoners, up until that moment, you have a certain number of laws that you're allowed to take. These are general laws for survival. It's called adaptation, and you get to make some choices here. So what was the first one of these that you took? What kind of path did you want to go on this adaptation tree?
So on every time I went through, and the time we went through with Noah, we went on we didn't want our people to get sick. We didn't want to make people amputees or make kids
child labor.
Yeah, do child labor, that kind of stuff. So
You said no to child labor, huh?
yeah, our first thing we did
I was all about that personally.
Our first thing we did was soup because we knew that we were gonna have more mouths to feed, so we went soup instead of putting sawdust in our food.
Because we didn't want people getting sick.
Yeah, because sawdust in your food, it makes the food last longer, and people don't get mad because they're
still eating. They're still full.
They're eating like actual food instead of soup. But they got sick, and we're like, we don't want people sick. They can just be upset, and we'll be fine. And then we went with the
child shelters.
The child shelters, where we put kids in shelters, which then we put them to work or helping out in the engineering places.
Yeah, learning how to do work that will not put them into physical harm.
Right.
Okay, sure.
Then I think we went with the sick. We went with sustain life. So there's the two options. One is sustain life. We're hey, we don't know, we can't cure you guys yet because we don't have the technology or the infirmary, that kind of stuff. So you're just gonna sit in this bed and just stay sick, but you won't die. Or there's the radical treatment where it's we're gonna try to figure it out, and some of you will be healed and some of you will just have to cut off your limbs.
Right.
And we went with sustain life because we were trying to not make people amputated.
So this is what you did the first time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what did you do, Kevin, the time that you won?
I did. Well, at that point, I had known a lot more.
Sure.
So I did the same thing. I went with sustain life, but I learned how to not make everyone on my team have frostbite.
Yeah.
That was our big problem on our first run, was we didn't realize sending people out to the wilderness to collect resources was causing them to get frostbite because our little resource collecting buildings didn't have heat.
Right.
There's a strong iterative element to this game, where you play, you make mistakes, you try desperately to fix those mistakes. Ultimately, you fail.
Yeah.
And then you try again, knowing more. This is the privilege, right, that video games afford us. No real ruler gets a second shot at things, but you can just restart it and make sure that you don't get 60 sick people by the second week. But the thing that I think is really one of the really nice elements of this game is that they really allow you to make these mistakes. They let you do it. They're happy. Frostpunk is happy to let you ruin your life from day one. And I really appreciate that. I think it's enjoyable because it puts you consistently, and this is something that is a theme throughout the game, it puts you consistently in a state of desperation where you are, however comfortable you ever feel, you are always on the brink of feeling very
disaster,
exactly. Everything falling apart. Now, once you really have the game figured out, once you really understand things, you can sincerely get through this whole scenario with very little trouble. And I think that's also interesting once you get the mechanics, the right angles on it. And there's difficulty levels. You can change different modifiers if for replayability, which is great. But once you kind of learn the beats of the story, learn the mechanics a little better, you can be a really great ruler. And one of the really interesting part of these laws, we've talked about some of them are clearly more moral than others. The great thing is, if you're a good enough ruler, you can earn that for your people. You can earn the privilege of having the kids not go work in the mines. You can give them the right to do an apprenticeship or whatever, go to these, child care homes. But if you're a bad ruler, maybe you truly believe that it is necessary that you have the kids go to the mines. I did, certainly for the first time. I thought, well, these first few days are so important. I need every single worker out. And you get 15 kids out of your first 80. And that's a whole, wood pile or something that you can work, just children. And that's what I did. and sure, a couple of them get frostbite, a couple of them get sick.
It happens.
One of them died, I think. But that's 14 workers that you get. That's 14 plus. On the first few days, very important.
Otherwise, they're just sitting around,
eating
food, taking your resources instead of helping
right.
you get them.
Well, I don't think it's so much for me. The justification wasn't so much, wow, these guys are freeloading, these
children.
These children are just a waste. It was more that, listen, we all this is what it's going to take to survive. This is what we need to do. And that's a very strange line to tread, because Kevin clearly proved in his playthrough that it wasn't necessary. That if I had made better decisions, then it would not have needed the children to work and die.
So on your second playthrough, right?
Yeah.
Did you do that every time?
I didn't do it every time. No, I tried the second time to put them in the apprentice as the engineering apprentice, like you did.
Yeah.
But I
didn't make it.
I didn't make it that time either. Yeah. So on my third time, I think I did end up. I ended up putting him in the hospitals. I think I liked that better. But yes, after that, I didn't put them to work. I still made other decisions that were nefarious, but
necessary.
That's right. So there's this moral question in the game, right? It's the idea that what is justified, and then what do we just do because it's easier, or because I wasn't good enough in the beginning. And it is very clear that in this game you can walk through it and have no problem at all and make every moral decision. So let's say at this moment we're going to move into spoilers. Is that fair? And
Yeah.
we've given up some things, but this is all early game stuff so far. So let's drop the wall. Spoiler wall is down. As you progress through the game, right? You things get harder. Things get colder. But consistently you're keeping up with it, right? I mean, in a good playthrough. So I think the very best example of this game is that first time that you win. The very first one that you get to the very end and you like succeed.
Yeah.
So that's like that's the true essence of the game. Anything after that is fine. It's a different kind of thing though. Anything before that is just you learning how to do that first one. So in that first long playthrough,
Yep.
things are getting harder, but you're keeping up, right? You've got the tech. You know what tech you need. You know what tech you want. You start using the right tools to keep people fed. You know that you're going to need food. You know you're going to need a lot of coal. And you're kind of in this cycle of nature pushes me and I push back. And you end up progressing, right?
Yeah.
You are building out your city, keeping people warm. And over time, you start to feel even almost in control.
Yes, I definitely felt that way on my second playthrough I got to the very end and realized that I could not win.
Yes.
that
Okay,
I just
so
couldn't do it.
So the storm at the end is a pretty big turnaround.
Yeah, you never saw the storm.
Yeah, well, because I think the coldest it ever got during the playthrough I did with you was like 60 degrees. And then I saw you load up like the in-game save that you were on, and it was like negative 140.
Yeah. So that's at the very, very end of the game, you get a bunch of, like what Daniel was saying, you kind of steady out. And at one point in my second playthrough and my third one, I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I have more resources than I know what to do with. I feel like I'm in control. It's not really getting significantly colder, and even if it does, like I have enough coal and tech and stuff that I am in the clear. So I'm good. And then that happened for like 2 days or so, and I started to be like, okay, game, like what's next? Like I can handle what you're doing. And then these refugees start coming to your camp saying like, it's coming. Holy shit, like it's coming. You got to be ready. And I was like, what are they talking about? And then it starts talking about the storm that's going to come. And eventually you build this little like beacon thing so you can see. And the game is like, hey, you need to have the heat on maxed out, all the heat tech. You need to recall all your troops, like get all your scouts, get your research teams back in here.
Steam core level 5 or whatever.
Yeah, and like, hey, you need food for a week for everyone, because it's gonna get so cold that you can't produce food anymore. Like it's gonna be so cold for a whole week where you cannot produce food. So
like everyone just needs to stay indoors. Basically.
Yeah, well, like they can work, but like the food itself, like all food's gonna die. So you need food for a week. And then it's like, hey, you also need to like go and save everyone that's out there. There's like more refugees. You need to bring them in.
They're gonna die out there if they don't come here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that moment. That moment when you see exactly how bad it is, because you think that it's gonna be pretty rough, because you know the storm's coming. You know that something's been on the horizon this whole time. But then you get this technology and you build this thing and you say, oh no, it is much worse.
Yeah. So when that happened, when that happened for me, I had a ton of food, but I was like, I have like food for a whole month. Like I don't need that much food. So I took a bunch of people off of food and put them in other things. Because I was like, I don't need that much food. Like I'm producing enough food every day that we have like enough stockpiled that we'll be fine. Like no worries. And then I was like, oh, I need a week's worth of food. The storm is how many days away? Like, okay. I was like, I've got to restart and just like start it over. Sure. Because I was like, if this comes to it, my people will starve. Like that's it. I lose. Like I could have gone through the storm to see what it would look like, but I was like, no, like I'm just going. They will starve. Like I have enough for like 2 days.
It's a no-win scenario.
Yeah, like enough for 2 days, and I have like 3 days, and I could maybe get 4 days worth of food stockpiled, but no, it's not gonna make it. So I just like restarted the game.
I think there's some value. I get what you did, and that makes it's what anybody would have done. But I think there's some value to sticking it out in this game and seeing everything fall apart. I think there's some kind of weird catharsis to that.
Of watching everyone
just seeing
die.
the dark ending.
seeing well we tried and I failed. And sure, you say, okay, I get it now. I want to rerun it right now. That's cool. That makes sense. But what if your people had been able to make it? Starving and battered through the end of the storm.
But like 10 of them survive.
But like, yeah, maybe you would have had not that many left, but you would have had somebody left.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that.
I get it. I get it.
I
Sure.
just restarted the game, and then I just absolutely destroyed the game on my last run through.
So-
By the end, I had it felt really good.
Just had it all figured out.
Oh, because I was on my third, because I had gone through the whole game.
Yeah. So the third run really was for me as well the kind of the real trial, the real effort, because you know exactly what's coming, you know the story beats by heart, and you know how to survive.
Yeah.
This is the first time where you actually know how to survive, and it's great. It's really enthralling and exciting to see those beats come unexpectedly. When you know they're coming, you can actually start playing the game, and that's, I think, the most fulfilling part is that after maybe 3 or 4 hours of play, you get, okay, let's like get going, and you do everything right. You pick presumably the right laws, use those correctly. For me, the Londoners on the third run, they were gone within a few days.
No, mine didn't go away that fast, but on my last run, on my second and my third run, I got rid of all the Londoners.
Right.
They did not
So-
leave. Where on our first run, they would have left. They were not going to stick with us.
Right. So, at the very end of the game, well, first, before we get to that, let's talk about faith and order, because we haven't touched on that yet. So, you mentioned that you went faith the first time, is that right?
Yes.
And Kevin, did you go faith every time?
I went faith the second time, almost all the way through, and got rid of all the Londoners with faith.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the run that I won, I went order, because I hadn't done that one yet. So I
Yeah.
went order on my
Sure.
very last
Just
run.
to see how it goes.
You wanted it for variety.
Yeah. And so we could talk about it.
Yeah.
Explore the game.
So
Yeah.
I did order my first time
Mhm.
because I thought, listen, faith, nah, there's no way that keeps people in line. Order's got to be the way to go. I'm gonna do this right, and it went pretty badly, but that was mostly my fault. I went faith on the time that I won, and I actually enjoyed faith a lot more as a ruler thing.
I'm a big fan of, what was it, the Faith Keepers?
Okay, so both elements, both laws have their militant group. There's the faith keepers and the guardsmen or something.
Yeah, I think the guardsmen.
Well, so this brings us back to what I was talking about at the very end of the game, and we'll touch on that in just a second. But there is a depth to which you can go down these laws, right? And I think both of you probably saw it. But at the very end of each of the laws,
I don't know if you ever got to see the little fiery one at the
I
very,
don't think
very
so,
end.
no.
Yeah.
So you're selecting laws, and they're getting progressively worse. You can tell. You can see it. Like, okay, now they're gonna start like forcing people to repent and take oaths of loyalty. Like, this is
Oh gosh.
this
Yeah.
is getting
I didn't
worse.
see that.
So
This is
yeah,
very clearly getting worse.
in the faith one that you didn't see, eventually you build temples and stuff, and you can have people like paraded in the streets.
yeah.
Wow.
And like not
okay.
crucified, but like tied up to
They,
posts
they,
with
they,
like
they do forced penance.
Public shaming.
yeah, public shaming where people like, and that's how you get rid of the Londoners.
Yeah.
You use
That's
those
the way.
things.
Gee.
You use those things to get rid of the Londoners,
Mhm.
and it'll be like, hey, people will repent and that kind of stuff and come back to your side.
Right now,
But-
with the order, it's prisons. So
Yeah.
you throw the Londoners in jail,
Okay.
and then they are either rehabilitated or they just die in prison. And
Just
like
a lot less humiliating.
I guess so. I mean, I don't really think either is great.
Because in the prisons, you can have more or less like torture them into
Yeah.
being saying like,
Yeah,
no,
that's right.
okay.
That's right.
It's not called torture, but it's called something where it's like
It's coercion.
it's like forced persuasion. I think it's what
Yes.
it's called, like forced persuasion. So it's pretty much saying like, hey, you don't want to be a Londoner anymore, right? It's like, no, I think I really want to leave. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to force you into changing your mind.
yeah, let's talk.
So ultimately, both sides are like almost equally
So-
inhumane.
So both
and
sides are
cruel.
from what I can tell, both sides are morally reprehensible. They are both manipulation through. I don't want to say through force, because if you don't go, and this ties into the end. If you don't take off that box, or we can tell. We can very clearly tell that the last law in each of these trees is bad, because it's like, hey, force everybody in your society to wholly accept your religion, and everyone who doesn't, well, they're just gonna not be in our society anymore.
Yeah, what's really interesting in the faith one, I thought was really interesting,
Yes.
was as you go, eventually you can be like, hey, as the captain, I am the voice of God. And like you become...
You adopt divine authority.
Basically Frostpunk Pope.
Yeah, pretty much. And then like what you can use a little ability that says like, that will significantly lower discontent and raise hope. And it's called like the words of God. And it's like you as the captain go out and say, these are what God is saying, and will say stuff. Which is really interesting, that as a concept. And then in the order one, you don't get that. That doesn't happen. But like the last little thing is, it's like in the order, it's a new order.
Yep.
And then in the faith one, it's like a new religion or something like that. And it's all fiery and red.
Yep.
And when you pick it, it's like, hey, you don't have to worry about hope anymore. Like that mechanic is just gone. People are always hopeful.
It is handled.
Wow.
Like it's handled because it's either you're with us
or you're not,
or you're not here anymore.
Right. After that, everybody in your society is bought in, and that's the real goal, because that's the need from a societal point of view. You need to have laws or a philosophy that people buy into, because they all need to be able to rely on each other. That's the whole kind of crux of it, is that people need to do their work. Everybody needs to do their work so that everybody can survive. And these order or faith are both just methods to get to that ultimate goal. And I know that you guys picked faith to be more, because you thought it might be a little bit nicer. And it is in the beginning, surveillance is a little bit
way worse.
Yeah, you can
worse than order.
You can definitely see it coming with the Faith Keepers when they come out with like
the
their
Faith
purple
Keepers.
robes
The Faith
and
Keepers
their,
are the
like,
line.
Giant
So-
cross things and.
Kevin and I discussed this a little bit before, but at the very end of the game, you get this tellback, this recanting of your journey, and it goes through the whole thing. It says, we were 80 people. We started with nothing, and then it shows a real-time reconstruction of your city, just like a view of your little valley, and it shows all the buildings being built
Pretty cool.
in a very fast replay. Very fun to watch. Very cool. You say, "Oh yeah, look how I built out that district and then demolished it. That was good times." And at the end of the thing, it says, we chose order to survive, but like we cross the line, and then it says we did cross the line.
Yeah,
right.
it's straight up.
If you go past a certain point in the order tree, we cross the line, and then at the end it poses the question, was it worth it? Right. And it makes you feel a little bad, I guess, about doing this. The game makes a moral judgment on your moral judgments. And if you go past a certain point in either of these laws, with faith or order, then it kind of tells you off for it. Of course, there's no indication this is going to happen throughout the game. You see that fiery one, the last one, and you say, that one's bad. So the game's telling you something there for sure. But it doesn't tell you, once you institute the Faith Keepers, you start jailing people or forcing them to repent in the street. It doesn't tell you that you've crossed the line.
Right.
And I think that's good, to be honest.
Yeah, so I really, looking back on it, I think it's really interesting how there's no indication, right, of, hey, this is the line, and when you cross it, now you get the bad ending, right? And the very, very last one I never picked, because at that point in both my faith and order run, my hope and discontent was so under control. Like my hope was so high, my discontent was so low, that I was like, okay, I don't need to pick the giant fiery, hey, look, now now I am really the dictator that I pretend I'm not, right? So I never picked that. And then because it's a video game and it's a tech tree but with laws, it's like a law tech tree, and how I've been kind of conditioned from video games is like, hey, the further you go down, the better it is. Like, this is good stuff. And the last one, the game told you like, hey, this is a big deal, but nowhere else did it. So at the very end, when the game told me like, "Hey, you suck," like, "Oh, you went too far. You're a bad person," I kind of like threw my hands up and was like, "What the heck, game? Like you gave me no warning. Like I don't feel bad because you never told me that this is the line of the bad people. Like I didn't know about the Faith Keepers or like policemen line until Daniel told me about it. But as like a meta kind of concept, and as a game looking back on it, like as people, you never really know when you cross the line until you're looking back on it.
As a society, you never know when you've gone too far with your philosophy.
Right. And there's like the very last one is very obvious.
And I think it's important to note that very often the line is crossed imperceptibly, that it just happens.
Right.
And there isn't some big fiery symbol that tells you that you've done it.
Correct. And so that's what I think, that when the game told me it's like you went too far, was it worth it? Oh, don't you feel bad? I was kind of like, no, game, I don't feel bad. Like I nailed this. I like crushed this. My third run. You guys didn't stand a chance. Like I freaking rocked this thing. I took everybody in. No one was sick. No, a few people died. I think like 18 people died because I put them on 24-hour shifts and worked them too hard. But that's okay. Like it was for the greater good. Like I had 600 people. I brought everybody in. Didn't put kids to work. I made moral choices. I feel good about myself. And then the game was like, no, you're still a bad person. And so from like my gut check reaction, I was like, this game is stupid. Like it can't tell me I'm a bad person. I did everything right. I was a good person. But I think that the more I think about it, that whole concept like really nails in. Like, no, that's what a dictator bad person would think and say, right?
Yeah.
Like us as a society are telling you went too far. And you're saying, no, I didn't go too far. I don't know. You don't know what you're talking about.
I did what it took for you people to survive.
Right. And so that really put me in the mind, like looking back on it, put me in the mindset of like, no, I really was a dictator, evil person because I did go too far.
I was a bit of a dictator.
You got me.
And since I didn't even recognize it, or even once I was told that, I was like, oh, I don't know, I wasn't. I still denied it.
Sure.
That is a very interesting kind of place to be as a video game.
You feel almost attacked, like it was unjustified, what they're saying about you.
Yeah, and so I think that something that's interesting is kind of like, I don't get to say if I was a dictator, if I went too far. Like that society, like if this was a real thing, right? If this was real and I was really the captain, I could say, no, I wasn't. But I don't get a say. If the society deems me I went too far and it was a dictator, then I am. And I did go too far. Like I don't get to say if I did or didn't. Mm-hmm. So I think that the fact that the game doesn't tell you, and then at the very end it's like, hey, you suck. Like why'd you do that? Is a really cool kind of parallel to real life and putting me in that mindset of, well, I was just doing what was best for everybody. So more or less, I think the game told me that I'm Thanos. I think that's who I am now.
I think that's right.
Frosty Thanos.
I think that's exactly right. So I want to touch really quickly on the actual ending of the game, because it's a city builder, and many city builders, almost 100% of them, virtually have no ending. They are, infinitely playable, and many people who really enjoy city builders picked up Frostpunk day one, played it to their heart's content that first day, got to the end and said, wait, this is it? This is all I get? And they were pretty upset that Frostpunk ended after only, 8 or 9 hours tops. I'm sure there's other scenarios, but those aren't very long either. And they wanted more. They wanted an infinite experience like they're used to with city builders. But Frostpunk is not a typical city builder. It's a survival city builder. And I think this is very important, that it must end in order to have any of the interesting things that we've spoken about today. In order for them to exist, the game has to end. And I know they're coming out with an infinite mode now. Like they're working on it. So the game creators are happy to do it for people who've already played through the game and want another challenge.
How is that gonna work?
I don't know, but they're gonna
give
make it
you
work.
Infinite space, because you eventually run out of space.
I truly do not know, but they're working on it.
I ran out of space.
So the criticisms of the game. Let's touch on that just real quick. It's not a perfect game.
Yeah. So the big gripe that we had, that is a really interesting thing now looking back on it, is we made a promise to have. So there's this.
Dang it.
Yeah, there's a mechanic of if the people want something, they'll be like, hey, we want food, or hey, we're homeless, or hey, there's a lot of sick people, or what have you. And you can make a promise saying like, hey, I'll kind of fix that, or I'll definitely fix that, or hey, piss off, I'm doing what I'm doing. And so we said, hey, we're going to make sure everybody is homed. No one's going to be homeless because we were already building the houses. So like, cool, we did it, yay. And then we're like, okay, cool, well, now we're going to upgrade your tents into bunkhouses so it'll be even warmer. And as we replaced that first tent with a bunkhouse, the people rioted in the streets. There was just one guy.
How dare you?
It was perfectly our like people resources. It was perfectly one person was left without a home when we demolished that house to upgrade his house to a better house.
Yeah, and so the people, just that one guy. I wish they're all named. All the people that you have are named. I wish I knew his name
to curse it into
to curse it. And he rioted in the streets, and our hope took a massive hit.
Yeah, you broke your promise.
Because I broke our promise, and we're like, "What are you talking about?" So
we're trying to make your life better, man.
Yeah. And so that, not knowing that would happen, and that it happened when, like, we didn't build an extra, like, here, you can stay in this tent for 3 hours while we build your better house. That was pretty frustrating.
So there are some mechanical issues. That system in particular is a little bit finicky, like you've observed. You have to know what to expect. But once you do know what you're expecting, right, it's fine because you just say, okay, obviously we can't have one person waiting for 2 hours because that'll break the promise. So I got to build this stupid house. You got to work kind of with these things, and it's not great. It's not perfect, not good. But once you know where the pitfalls are, you can avoid them, right? I think what Noah said earlier, that his computer just wasn't able to play it, right? That's another issue here.
Very
Frostpunk
demanding.
Is tremendously demanding. Yes.
Yeah, because what would also happen is when I got to the later stages, every time it would autosave, my whole game would just shut down.
It chugs.
In the game.
Yeah, the whole time I was playing it over here,
it's a beautiful game.
Your computer just hummed. Like, it was constantly just pumping out very hot air, like the steam core at the...
That's right. Wow.
The center of
It's all in theme.
What a parallel.
So the fact that the autosave was kind of the worst near the end game as well. But then the one other issue I had was in my second run, where I got to the very end. It was like, hey, you need to build this like special beacon thing to track the storm. And it's up in the top right.
Yeah, it's the very first level.
And I was constantly looking for, like, where is this thing? And I was in like the 4th or 5th tech tree, and I was like, it's not here. Maybe I have to go get those, because there was like a research station where people were. So
you thought you had to scout it.
So I was sending scouts out there, and that's when I asked Daniel where it was, and he told me where it was. And by the time I researched it, I was like, oh, I'm not going to have enough food. The storm is right here. And I could have had enough food, but it's in such a sucky place, or the game didn't point like, hey, this is really important or anything like that. They just kind of threw it in there and said, oh, hopefully they see it. So I guess that's my fault, because it wasn't like it was hiding.
I think the game failed you a little bit there, at least.
Because it wasn't hiding, but at the same time, it wasn't super obvious. I don't know.
So not a perfect game. These are mechanical things, though. I think thematically the game is tremendously strong, and also it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
which is important for a game. Any other issues you guys want to touch on? Anything else that you really want to talk about?
I don't know if really I have any issues with it. I had a really good time with the game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting that, like, I think when it first came out, I heard a lot of people talking about it being kind of in the like suffer sim genre.
I wouldn't call it that so much.
Well, it's got kind of some similar stuff. Like I kind of liken it a little bit to something like This War of Mine, or something like Darkest Dungeon, where it presents you with options.
Yeah.
That, like,
Darkest Dungeon,
none of these options, none of these options are good options, but one of them might lead you down a course to victory with a little less effort.
But as with Darkest Dungeon, once you get a hold of the game and really start to master some of the mechanics, you can really take the game to town.
Yeah, because you start with like nothing as well.
Oh yeah,
in Darkest Dungeon.
But you can like do Frostpunk well, as Kevin has said.
Yeah.
You can master it.
I definitely, on that last playthrough at the very end, I had for when the storm hit, right? I had all, like, literally as much heat as I could pump out, and I had more coal than I knew what to do with. I had like 40,000 units of coal when I only needed like maybe 10,000 units to survive through the storm.
Yeah.
And I had way more than I needed, and I had like so much food that when the storm came, I could have just said nobody work, everybody just
Take
go
the day
hang
off.
out, and we'll be fine. Like
And
we
that's
have enough.
extremely cathartic.
Yeah,
at that
so-
point.
Oh yeah, you become very powerful
Yeah.
in a system that very recently made you feel very weak.
Yeah, so that's the last playthrough. That's why when the game told me that I was a bad person, I was like, "Shut up, game! Like I crushed you. Like you didn't stand a chance."
So, all right, everything said, from street to cyber, what punk do you give this?
So we're into ratings now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
we're moving into ratings.
Ratings.
Okay, ratings. Here we go. All right, so from street
To cyber.
to cyber, what do we give? What kind of punk do we give this?
Frost is off the menu.
Frost is off the menu, boys. Okay. Kind of punk.
I want to say I want to give it like a pop, but I don't know if that fits this.
Pop
the
punk?
aesthetic of.
I think the
Frostpunk.
rating is very intensely personal. I don't think you need to justify it at all.
I'm honestly just trying to think of what other kinds of punks there are.
All right, I think I got mine. On a scale from street to cyber.
And I am elevating cyber to the highest form of
Oh
punk.
yes, no, I agree. Absolutely.
I think I'm gonna give Frostpunk a punk ass rating.
Podcast.
It's a punk ass rating.
Punk ass punk.
Punk ass game.
Punk ass pop punk.
Sure.
Pop punk ass.
Yep.
Something like that.
Noah, are you broken?
Does it smell like toast? I blacked out. Yeah, so that's the rating, I think.
Yep.
There we go.
We'll combine together since we played it together.
Mhm.
Our combined rating is a punk ass pop punk
All right.
rating.
There it is.
Frostpunk.
Wow.
Isn't that
I'm
great?
sure the creators are going to be glad to hear that.
Yeah.
We'll send them an email.
Yeah.
Get him on the horn.
Well, we'll speed dial. We'll have to get back.
I think they're
inside.
listeners.
Oh, are they? You think?
I think so.
Do you know who the developers are of this game?
I actually don't know. I don't remember.
All right. Gerald, could you?
Yeah, look that up.
Get
Get the
on that.
researchers on it.
Yeah, get those kids. Those kids.
I want to give a shout out to two people.
Yeah, of course.
You can
yeah,
cut this
sure.
in post.
No, well, we don't edit at all. But
It's all live.
you also still have the power, so you're
I got
still
the power.
You're still
All
in
right,
charge.
I got two shout outs to make. One is a very prominent, and not at all by prominent I mean not really all that prominent, video game critic on YouTube, does long form video game criticisms called Noah Caldwell Gervais, and a lot of my ideas on Frostpunk were influenced at least by his pretty good analysis of survival city building games, including Frostpunk, Surviving Mars, and others. Check him out. To the 17 people listening to this.
Yeah, check it out.
Um,
Yeah, this is your plug section. You
my
can
plug section.
plug
Plug-
whatever you want.
I
Plug it
also want to plug a non-video game critic, Dave Marino,
My boy Dave.
who is a longtime listener of the podcast.
Yeah, he apparently has listened to almost all of our episodes.
Well, listen.
Really?
So he notified me that it was surreal hearing my voice on the Dude Check This Out podcast, on the Vocaloid one. And I figure if he listened to the Vocaloid one, he listened to all of them.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
Well,
That
hey,
is-
how's it going?
shout out to Dave.
yeah,
Glad to have you as a listener.
Dave. Oh yeah. Also,
Appreciate you.
I have a Dave of my own to shout out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many Daves.
His name's Big Dave.
What's up, Big Dave?
His name's Big Dave. He plays on my frisbee team, and we were sitting across from each other at Chipotle like 2 weekends ago or last weekend, whenever it was. And I told him about our podcast. He's like, "Oh, I'll subscribe and listen." And I was like, "Cool, man." So I don't know if he's listening to this episode, but Big Dave,
Wherever you are.
you're the man. He's also he took a bunch of modern dance classes in college. We were talking about that when I brought up my podcast, right?
Neat.
So that's not what he does right now. He told me, I don't remember what he does. I was too interested in being modern dance, but he almost went into modern dance like full time, moved to LA and like do that thing. Then he plays frisbee instead. He's a cool guy.
Sweet.
His name's Big Dave.
As long as we're plugging Daves, I'm gonna plug Uncle Dave, not my actual uncle, but he was a regular at the comic shop I used to work at, and he was the uncle of the owner, so we all called him Uncle Dave. Uncle Dave, I don't believe so.
Not yet.
But not yet. If you are, Uncle Dave, I appreciate you.
You should let him know that you got a shout out.
Yeah, I should. on our.
That's how you're gonna bring in fans.
Yeah.
Shout out to people who don't listen.
Shout them out and guilt them into listening to our podcast.
That's right.
It's marketing 101, really.
Excellent. Well, now that all the Daves are plugged, got anything else you need to plug?
No, with the pluggings done, I will release the power.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be taking that power now because I need to give Noah something to do for the next 2 weeks.
All right, the chain of power is complete.
Yeah, so you need to pass it back to me. I've received it. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Anytime.
That was good. Okay, so for next time, Noah, Daniel, you can stick around. I mean, it's kind of nice out here. I don't know if you want to like head into that cabin that's over there or just chill with us out here. But we're gonna stick on the video game track. We had a bunch of movies, and we're going to video games. I'm going to give you a classic game that I grew up with playing. I think we probably played the multiplayer some together way back in the day.
Maybe.
The N64, Kirby 64, and the Crystal Shards.
Yes.
So
I love Kirby.
Yeah, Kirby games. For those who don't know, he's the big pink puffball guy. And Kirby and the Crystal Shards was on the N64. It's the sequel to Kirby Dream Land 3, I guess. I don't really know if it's really a sequel because they're Kirby games. Some of them have sequels. Some of them, it's not that big a deal. But in this game, dark matter has come and is polluting the minds of some people in some worlds. And Kirby has to go on a quest to save his friends. Yeah. Well, in Dreamland, and you go from like planet to planet in this game.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a few planets that you go to, which are just like different levels, right? And so you go from planet to planet, and dark matter has corrupted them, and you end up defeating dark matter at the end. But there's some cool characters. There's like Waddle Dee, and there's this fairy lady, and there's like a painter. I don't remember the painter's name.
Yeah,
and of course
she's a returning character.
Gotcha.
She's in a lot of the series.
And of course King DDD.
Of course, King
DDD. The big kicker of this game is that you can combine powers. With Kirby, you absorb an enemy, you eat the enemy, and you gain their powers, right? So you suck up the fire dude, then you get fire hair, and you can spit fire. But in this game, you can combine two powers. So at any time when you have one power, you like kind of vomit it up and hold it over your head as a little star.
Yeah.
And then you throw it at the bad guys. And if you hit a bad guy with it that has another power, it will combine into a 2-power thing. And you can suck that up and you get like an upgraded version. So if you have just fire and you hit another fire guy, you get like, instead of just like turn into a little fireball, you turn into the like giant fire bird man. Or you hit a boomerang guy, you hit a sword guy with the fire, then you like spit out this giant fire sword. And there's one I think was my favorite was if you combine fire and ice, what Kirby does is he gets this little mirror thing, I guess, and rub it on his head really, really fast, and then he catches on fire and runs around. And so, I don't know, that's just what he does. I remember that one specifically. And there's like a bunch of different ones that you can get that are really interesting. Like, I think Blade and Ice is you get like ice skates. Nice. You like skate around on ice skates. So it's a really interesting way of, by, the second level or third level, you kind of have the ones that you like your go-to ones that you really like. But it's a really interesting and cool concept of, I think it's the only Kirby game that I can think of where you absorb 2 powers and kind of put them together. And all the other ones, you just absorb one, you get their power. So it's really cool. I played the heck out of this game back in the day when the N64 was like the console to have, right? And I know you never had an N64 growing up.
I've played plenty of Kirby games. I played like Nightmare on Dreamland on the Game Boy Advance. Like I would just sit down and play through it, like the entirety of it in like 2 hours at a point because I just had that game down. So I've played plenty of Kirby, but yeah, I didn't own it. By the time that generation of consoles came by, I was a PlayStation boy.
Yeah, committed to Sony.
Yeah, so I never owned an N64, but I'm very excited to play this Kirby game.
Yeah, it's really great, and it does have some multiplayer. So I know you and Jordan could play some because I think she has the game.
Yeah, she has it, and the N64 is her favorite console, so I'm sure.
So I don't remember all the games. The one I remember the most is there's like a little hopping game where there's a bunch of little circles and you have to mash the A or the B button to hop down. It's like a race. So there's some fun multiplayer games in there. It's just a really good Kirby game. Kirby games are real short, simple, easy.
They're fun and breezy.
Yeah. So,
like me.
Are you a cover girl, Noah?
No, he's a magical boy.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Noah
says so on my hat.
Yeah, for those who can't see Noah, which is most of you listeners at this moment, Noah's wearing his magical boy hat.
Which makes sense because he is a vulgar magician.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
Vulgar magician boy.
Vulgar magical magician.
Yeah, so what does do you know what the text says underneath?
It says vulgar magician.
Oh, is that what it says? Magical boy,
Yeah.
vulgar magician within those two little stars.
So it's got like the Japanese characters under or above it.
It's
I
below
don't
it.
Remember below it under the magical boy. I don't know. This is from a artist online that made these hats. I regrettably forgot his name. I will put that somewhere on.
Yeah,
I think it's on the side of the
for
hat.
people to know.
We can put it in the
Is it
description.
on the side of the hat?
Yeah.
Let me take off this hat for a second. Oh, it's Oh Hey DJ. There we go.
Oh hey DJ.
Yeah. So if you want a rad hat
That says magical boy.
that
If you were really into the Vocaloids last time, if you were just really into that and you found a new hobby of yours to just really get into that, you might want a magical boy hat.
yeah. Or if you're in the future funk scene, either way,
That too.
we got a hat for you. Or Oh Hey DJ has a hat for you on the internet.
Yep.
Check
Well,
it out. Anyways,
I think that's it for us here. Do check this out. Daniel, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
thank you very much.
Frostpunk was rad.
Cool.
Yeah, so Noah, get pumped for Kirby and the Crystal Shards. It'll
So
be
pumped.
nice and easy.
I'm pumped up with air.
Yep.
I'm flying away.
And
Like
Gerald's, could you please carry me and my bed back into the cabin? I appreciate that. And that's it from us. Do check this out. Thanks for sticking with us. I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Daniel, you can say bye too.
Bye.
There it is. All right, we're done.
That's it.
We
Vamp.
crushed it,
We
dude.
did it.
Vamp.
What does that mean?
Vamp is it's when you fill airspace. It's like
With what? Like Jello?
it's you. It's so
Blood.
When you fill
Say-
airspace.
So it's a newscasting thing.
Oh, you mean
So
okay.
you've got you're rolling your teleprompter, and if you need to just burn time, they give you vamp. So you vamp. You just talk about stuff. Newscasters are good at it. You'll see if they're like if they're burning in air, you can tell sometimes. Some are better at it than others. They'll call back to a recent thing, or they'll tell you like how they're feeling, or how give you a quick summary of the situation.
If they just like watch the fluff piece.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh boy.
Oh well,
it sure was great how they got that dog out of that well.
That's more of a transition, I think. I don't know if that's technically vamp, but that's also pretty common and also pretty bad. Newscasting is not like a hobby of mine or anything.
I was about to say, Dan, I didn't know you were into
just vamp.
into the news so much.
No.
That's probably one of my favorite parts of my TV class I took in college was writing a script for a news segment
Yeah.
and sending it out with, because we had like in the news segment as if we were going out to commercial, and I ended in mine with, when we come back, magnets. How do they work? Turns out no one knows.
Do your scripts get produced? Did your script get produced? Did that?
Oh yeah, we
Nice.
shot it. It was fun.
Yeah,
Very cool.
what song did you go to credits to or go to commercial to? I thought you remember telling me about that.
So that one I think was just like a general like news bumper. But there was another segment we had to do the week I got to be audio guy was a talk show, like a mock talk show. And we went out to commercial. We came into the show, the theme song to the show was the theme song to Space Coast Coast to Coast. Which I enjoyed a lot. And then we went out to we ended the show, went out to commercial with the 1UPs cover, with the 1UPs being a jazz cover band for video game songs, and we went out to the jazz cover of Green Hill Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's right. That's what it was. It's pretty good.
Really digging deep there. You know?
It was just it had that like really like upbeat jazzy feel that like a talk show would have going out.
Yep.
So I had fun with that, and there was like maybe 2 people that recognized what it was, and they
were like,
they also had a
"Hey!"
good time. Yeah, like I think one girl still was like, "This is Sonic." I was like, "Yeah, wow."
She sounds like a nice lady.
She was very excitable.
Yeah.
Very excitable.
So we're gonna go get Thai food now.
Oh yeah, let's go get Thai food.
Dude, I'm all down for that.
All right, we're done.
All right, we're out. Now I'm the only one left. Last word. You're right. No.